This is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Mark Himebaugh? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the disappearance, then offer my analysis. Mark Joseph Himebaugh was born on May 23, 1980, and grew up in Delhaven, New Jersey. This is a small town on the southern tip of New Jersey that sits on the Delaware Bay. Mark lived in a house on the 200 block of Sunray Road, along with his mother Maureen, his father Jody, and his older brother Matthew. Mark's father moved from job to job, and his mother was a waitress and cleaned homes. It appeared as though Jody prioritized having fun over being a financially responsible father. He had a boat and a camping trailer. Money was tight for the family. In March of 1991, Jody and Maureen separated. Jody lived in an apartment nearby. Mark and Matthew stayed with their mother, Maureen. Mark had difficulty controlling his emotions. He had frequent anger outbursts and would get upset when things didn't go his way. He was diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder and received mental health counseling. Mark attended the Cape May County Alternative Middle School. In mid-October 1991, Mark broke his left foot while on a playground. Now moving to the timeline of the disappearance. On Monday, November 25, 1991, Mark Himebaugh arrived home from school on the bus at around 2:15 p.m. His mother arrived home from a trip to the supermarket at about 2:40 p.m. Mark was sitting on the couch and watching television. At around 3 p.m., firefighters responded to a brush fire in the marshland about a quarter of a mile south of the family house. Mark climbed up his father's amateur radio tower to get a better view of the fire. A crowd had formed to watch the firefighters. I guess there wasn't much to do in this area of New Jersey, so people were absolutely thrilled to watch vegetation burn. Mark asked his mother if he could go see the fire, and she told him that he could. He removed his good sneakers and put on hand-me-down sneakers, which were in bad shape. Mark's left foot was still recovering from being broken, but he was not wearing any type of special boot or anything like that, just a regular sneaker. Mark exited the house to make his way toward the fire. Right after Mark departed, a neighbor came to Maureen's house and asked for a ride to an automotive repair facility that was about 5 minutes away. Maureen exited her house and saw Mark around the corner. She told Mark that she was going to take the neighbor to pick up her car. Mark said, "Okay, Mom." These would be the last words she would ever hear from Mark. Emergency responders blocked off some of the roads in the area due to the fire, which caused the trip to the automotive repair facility to take about 40 minutes when it normally would have taken about 15 minutes. Maureen returned to the family house sometime around 4 p.m. She didn't see Mark there. She went around the area looking for him, but did not have success. The fire was extinguished at about 5 p.m. There was still no sign of Mark. Maureen contacted the police at around 6 p.m. A search effort involving the police, firefighters, and volunteers was initiated. At about 8 p.m., the authorities recovered a sneaker on the beach about 225 feet from Mark's house. It was identified as belonging to Mark. It was his left sneaker, the one that would have been covering his injured foot. The police brought in dogs that tracked the scent from the sneaker north to Roosevelt Boulevard. At that point, the dogs lost the scent. The police were concerned that Mark was hiding in the marshland. Maybe he was not coming out because he was afraid of getting in trouble. The police discontinued the search at 1:30 a.m., hoping that Mark would feel comfortable enough to exit the marshland. The search resumed the next day, Tuesday, November 26. On this day, Mark's father, Jody, went to work as usual, which the police found to be cold and callous, considering the circumstances. Jody told the police that he didn't feel comfortable driving because he did not have insurance on his motor vehicle. This was his excuse for going to work instead of searching for Mark. Investigators spoke to Jody's employer, who confirmed that he was at work all day on November 25, the day Mark went missing. Mark's brother Matthew called Jody at work at 5:30 p.m., so that is when Jody found out about Mark being missing. Jody was a member of a barbershop quartet. They had a performance at a dinner theater that night. Jody received a second call at 6:30 p.m. Instead of leaving, he performed another song, then made his way to the search area. Jody did not arrive to the search area until 9:30 p.m. on November 25. The police searched Jody's apartment, but they did not find anything connecting him to Mark's disappearance. I imagine the police also failed to locate a Father of the Year trophy. Both Maureen and Jody were interviewed by the police. Maureen claimed that Jody believed in punishing Mark, and the father-son relationship was not in good shape. The police became aware of other alleged incidents where Jody may have exposed himself to various people. No charges were filed against Jody based on these allegations. The police tried to put together a timeline of Mark's movements on the day he disappeared. He was spotted by 4 teenagers at about 3:20 p.m. They saw Mark exiting the dunes onto Delaware Avenue. 2 witnesses who had parked on Delaware Avenue reported seeing Mark there at 3:30 p.m. They knew it was Mark because he had red hair and his shoelaces were red. The couple said that Mark was walking away from the fire toward Sunray Road. Mark walked past the couple's vehicle and next to a station wagon parked behind them. The station wagon had 2 occupants. A woman with blonde hair and a rabbit fur coat was in the driver's seat, and there was a man standing on the passenger side of the vehicle. He was scruffy looking, a little heavy, had long hair, and was wearing glasses and a flannel shirt. The man was yelling something to Mark. The police spoke to a guard for a park on Bayshore Road, just outside of Mark's neighborhood. The guard saw Mark walking with a girl sometime between 3:40 and 4 p.m. The guard did not recognize the girl. She was 9 or 10 years old, had blonde hair, and was wearing a blue coat with an orange stripe on the back. The guard last saw Mark and the mysterious girl walking toward the park's playground. This sighting by the guard was the last time that Mark was ever seen. The police investigated the various sightings of Mark. They were unable to find the couple in the station wagon, and no one recognized the girl who the guard described. The FBI became involved in the case. They interviewed people in every house in the neighborhood, but still did not have success. Nothing much happened in the case until February of 1993, when the Philadelphia Police Department encountered a male sex worker who said that he had spent time with a man named Thomas Bucavage. The sex worker told the police that Thomas showed him a video featuring a young boy with red hair being harmed. The boy looked identical to Mark. The police confronted Thomas. They noticed that he looked a lot like the sketch of the man who was seen talking to Mark right before the disappearance. Again, this is the man who was standing next to the station wagon. The police searched the residence of Thomas and found many adult videos, but they all featured consenting adults. Thomas told the police that he fantasized about committing a murder. The details of his fantasy were consistent with what could have happened to Mark, but Thomas said that he never followed through with anything like that. A receipt from a computer store placed Thomas in Philadelphia on November 25, 1991, the day Mark disappeared. The police weren't sure about the accuracy of the time on the receipt, so in theory, it was still possible that Thomas had been in Delhaven, New Jersey that day. In 1998, Thomas was arrested in Pennsylvania for offenses against boys. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 18 to 36 years in prison. On December 27, 2010, at 3:45 a.m., Crime Stoppers received a call from a telephone booth at a Sunoco gas station located at Richmond and Castro Street in the Port Richmond neighborhood of Philadelphia. The caller referenced Mark's case and identified himself as the son of a witness. He claimed that a person named Gilbert Patrick Marie may have been involved in Mark's disappearance, but the police could not identify anyone by that name. A similar call was made to the police that same night. The police thought that the caller sounded sincere, but they were never able to find him. In May of 2023, it was announced that the police were working with a company that uses artificial intelligence to help solve cases. This technology is going to be used to examine the case of Mark Himebaugh. This case and cases like it involved vast amounts of information. The AI technology is able to make connections that human beings would have difficulty making. At the time making this video, the police considered the case of Mark Himebaugh to be a non-family abduction. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few items that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Mark Himebaugh was curious, creative, full of energy, and was future-oriented. There is no reason to believe that he would have deliberately done something to bring an end to his own life. It is also unlikely that he wandered off on his own. As much as one could appreciate wanting to escape New Jersey, an 11-year-old wouldn't really have anywhere to go, and people would have noticed him if he was traveling by himself. Item number 2. The couple who saw Mark on Delaware Avenue reported that he had red shoelaces. It stands to reason that both of his shoes were on at that time, because the witnesses would have noticed a missing shoe if they were looking at shoelaces. The guard at the park reported seeing Mark and a mysterious girl. As far as I know, the guard never mentioned anything about a missing shoe. This means that Mark traveled from Delaware Avenue, where he was spotted by the couple, to the park containing the playground. This is a distance of at least 3,000 feet. After this, Mark must have made his way back to the beach, where he removed his left sneaker, or it fell off in some other way. If Mark lost his sneaker in a struggle, how would the kidnapper have carried him to a vehicle without anyone noticing? And why weren't there any signs of a struggle where the sneaker was found? It doesn't make sense that Mark struggled enough to lose his sneaker, but did not scream. Also, the police dogs tracked the scent from that sneaker to Roosevelt Boulevard, at least 2,500 feet away. If Mark had removed his shoe voluntarily, it would have been unpleasant to walk that far in the cold weather. It was 45 degrees outside. If it was removed involuntarily, how would somebody have brought Mark to Roosevelt Boulevard without being noticed? That's quite a distance to take someone who is resisting. The sneaker is an important clue, but it doesn't support any specific theory more than another. Item number 3. The guard at the park reported seeing a girl that no one else saw. No one reported knowing her. It was like she never existed. Considering the detailed description the guard offered, especially about the blue coat with the orange stripe on the back, it's hard to imagine that, if she lived in the area, no one would come forward. I think it is reasonable to believe that the guard did not remember what he saw correctly. Perhaps he became confused about the day or simply described the girl in a way that was inaccurate. It is highly unlikely that a kidnapper would use a 9 or 10-year-old girl to lure a victim. The story about the girl makes me wonder if Mark was ever actually at the park at all. If the guard was wrong about the girl, maybe he was wrong about Mark being there as well. Item number 4. On the day Mark disappeared, firefighters rerouted traffic because of the brush fire. This caused confusion, and a lot of cars were driving on unfamiliar streets. I think this could explain why the man in the station wagon talked to Mark. He might have just seen Mark walking and decided to ask him what was going on. Mark looked like he was local. The man could have said something like, "Why is the traffic being rerouted?" or "What's causing the problem?" The man was with a woman. It's highly unusual that a man and a woman would form a kidnapping team. As far as the theory that the station wagon man was Thomas Buckavage, the sketch of the man did look a lot like Thomas, but I would be surprised if it was him. Thomas was probably in the Philadelphia area, an hour and a half away from Delhaven, New Jersey. Item number 5. As I mentioned, about 19 years after Mark disappeared, a man called Crime Stoppers at 3:45 a.m. from a phone booth at a gas station in Philadelphia. The man also called a second time. The man supplied a name for the alleged attacker who the police could not find. It is reasonable to believe that if the man was lying about the name, he was lying about everything. The police released a portion of the audio for this call. When the man was explaining what crime he was talking about, he falsely stated that Mark had disappeared in 1980, only to correct himself and say 1991. It occurs to me that Mark was born in 1980 and this information was recorded on the flyer that is available online. His year of birth is positioned above the year that he disappeared. The man may have been reading the flyer from top to bottom. He saw Mark's year of birth first and incorrectly thought that was the year of his disappearance, but as he continued reading, he saw the year of the disappearance. In addition, the man referred to Mark as Mark Joseph Himebaugh. Mark's middle name does not appear in many reports, but it is listed on the online flyer. It stands to reason that the man was not familiar with the case. He was just using the case to cause trouble. Item number 6. Mark Himebaugh was a very rambunctious young man. He had a way of finding trouble and appeared to be excitement-seeking. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he died in the marshland surrounding his home or even in the Delaware Bay next to his home. The police have conceded that this is a possibility. The marshland is extremely difficult to search and can keep a body hidden for a very long time. In looking at a map of the area, the amount of marshland around Mark's house really stands out. Now moving to the last item, number 7. When contemplating the aspects of this case that I have reviewed and analyzed, 3 main theories emerge about what happened to Mark Himebaugh. He was abducted by someone he knew, he was abducted by someone he did not know, or he died in the marshland or in Delaware Bay in such a way that his body was never recovered. How would I rank these theories from most probable to least probable? I think the most probable theory is that Mark was abducted by someone he didn't know. A kidnapper who was looking for an opportunity, but didn't necessarily drive to Delhaven, New Jersey to kidnap anyone. The kidnapper may have been taking advantage of the chaos caused by the fire, kind of like a shopper in a store who turns into a shoplifter during a power outage. They didn't enter the store to shoplift, but they could not pass up the opportunity when the power went out. The next most probable theory is that Mark was kidnapped by someone that he did know. It seems likely that the police spoke to everyone who knew Mark. However, it's possible that they missed the perpetrator, or he managed to kill Mark and dispose of his body quickly. The least likely theory would be that Mark died in the marshland or in Delaware Bay. Again, I would put this as the least probable, but Mark was very adventurous. It is possible that he found trouble in an unexpected place. Now moving to my final thoughts. Stranger abductions are exceedingly rare, but when they do happen, they lead to chaos, fear, heartache, and a case that is difficult to solve. Sometimes a victim is just in the wrong place at the wrong time. There is an unfortunate intersection with the perpetrator who is looking for an opportunity to commit murder. Those are my thoughts on the case of Mark Himebaugh. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.